Special interests in autism. For many of us, we actually have several special interests, not just one, and it fluctuates. Sometimes one special interest takes a backseat, but it still drives with you in your car, so to speak. And you may come back to it some months or years later and dip in your toe again. And some special interests may last for one day or a week. And you dive deep into it. You look up everything. You want to know everything about it. And you go hard. And then all of a sudden something else comes up. I have made another video on my own special interests and how complex they are. It's the female autism and special interest video, which is 47 minutes long. So this is a short clip from it. So you see, this is just one category, but it is connected to so many other topics. And I compare it to files in my brain. They are kind of all connected. So the overarching theme is actually health and psychology. And there are many subcategories. And those subcategories have other subcategories. So I guess it was actually my dad who inspired me to be interested in many things. When he was studying at the university, he had a favorite teacher who told him, know a little about everything and know everything about one thing in order to be able to communicate with everybody. That was the idea, I guess. Some of you may be familiar with the Wurlitzer or jukebox. You throw in a coin and you choose a song, and then it plays the song. And I compare my brain to this Wurlitzer. So if I'm in conversation with somebody, which is actually rare enough, but given that this happens, this person may press a button. So I have a file on this topic. This is like pulling on a string where all the information is attached to it, and you share all you know about that topic. Just pulling, keep pulling, and all that information comes out one by one. And that's why I really don't like to be interrupted until I have pulled through the whole string. Otherwise, I get distracted and lose the string. So please don't interrupt me until I have finished my train of thought. Everything I know about this topic, I share that. I love to share my knowledge if I have a file on it. If I do not, I keep silent because obviously there is no file. So no words. And that's maybe why I am also so widespread, all over the place. But in a way, it's all connected. There is that overarching theme about health. Many things connected to that. Special interests make you feel alive and inspired. It's a source of pleasure. It is calming and relaxing. You are basically mapping out your world, or you are understanding how things work.
Want to be everything and honor all of my interests, which also represents different sides of myself and my personality that I don't want to give up. Because at the end of the day, being a multipod for me is about acknowledging and honoring all of those selves, your inner otherness, to put it as an anthropologist. I began to notice this pattern in myself, where I would become interested in an area, and I would dive in and become all consumed, and I get to be pretty good at whatever it was. And then I would hit this point where I'd start to get bored. And usually I would try and persist anyway, because I had already devoted so much time and energy, and sometimes money, into this field. But eventually, this sense of boredom, this feeling of like, yeah, I got this. This isn't challenging anymore. It would get to be too much, and I would have to let it go. But then I would become interested in something else, something totally unrelated, and I would dive into that and become all consumed, and I'd be like, yes, I found my thing. And then I would hit this point again, where I'd start to get bored, and eventually I would let it go. But then I would discover something new and totally different, and I would dive into that. This pattern caused me a lot of anxiety for two reasons. The first was that I wasn't sure how I was going to turn any of this into a career. I thought that I would eventually have to pick one thing, deny all of my other passions, and just resign myself to being bored. The other reason it caused me so much anxiety was a little bit more personal. I worried that there was something wrong with this, and something wrong with me for being unable to stick with anything. I worried that I was afraid of commitment, or that I was scattered, or that I was self-sabotaging, afraid of my own success. If you can relate to my story and to these feelings, I'd like you to ask yourself a question that I wish I had asked myself back then. Ask yourself where you learned to assign the meaning of wrong or abnormal to doing many things. I'll tell you where you learned it. You learned it from the culture. We are first asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up, when we're about 5 years old? And the truth
that are abnormal in intensity or focus, e.g. strong attachment to or preoccupation with unusual objects, excessively circumscribed or perseverative interests. They really had to work hard to make special interests seem quite so disordered, I think. This is what they're talking about. They're talking about autistic special interests. The thing about this one is that it seems like there is a particular focus on how normal or appropriate the interest is. And I find this extremely distasteful that it is written up like that a special interest that brings someone joy can be so pathologized. But here it is. This is what they mean by that. If you get any autistic person to finish the sentence, when I was X years old, let's say, when I was 10 years old, I was obsessed with, and see what comes up, because it is such a broad spectrum, and we're not all just interested in machines or objects. We can have a special interest about anything, and believe us, then once you get us going, it's hard to get us to stop. But I like to think that's part of my charm. Some people carry on with these very intense interests their whole lives, and that's just their thing. And some people have shorter, intense interests, which they then move on from and get bored. And that's kind of where I sit. I've been through so many really, really intense interests, some of which I kind of carried on and some of which I dropped. So it's basically like a very intense version of going through a phase. So for me, my special interests in chronological order have been gymnastics, the Spice Girls, the TV show Friends, the TV show Buffy, psychology, atheism and religion, gluten-free food, nutrition and the ketogenic diet. Then once I became a parent, it moved on to childhood development and parenting, YouTube, analytics and SEO, and of course, autism. And none of these things are, in my opinion, pathological to be interested in. It's not a problem that I'm interested in these things, and honestly, it's not been a problem that I've been really, really obsessed with them, and I'll use that word obsessed. I was obsessed with Friends, but do you know what that obsession helped me do? That obsession helped me learn to code HTML because I wanted to do a Friends fan site. It connected me with people from around the world. I ended up having some of my scrapbook Friends art being sent to, I think, Courtney Cox on their last day of filming. So special interests open the world to autistic people, and it's problematic that it's pathologized. But there you go. And when you're in this love affair with your special interest, it's all you want to look at, research, read about, talk about. It's like being in love with a topic.